Almi Peya Pedig Dalid Halacha Beis and Gimel Daf Lamed Vav. We're going to start Daf Lamed Vav Amid Aleph on top of the Amid, introduced by Reish Lakish in the name of Abba Koyen Bardalia, that Ba'arba Amas. We had the same sugya also in Bava Metzia. We linked it into our topic because our Mishnah told us that if an ani, after taking some payah properly, he decides to throw what he has on uncut payah as a means of making sure that he gets it, not only is that not a kinyan, but there is a knas that the Chachamim made for him, and that which he harvested, he lost. The Mishnah says that if he throws himself on top of payah and be'emes on leket and on shikha, he does not acquire it. There's no knas there, but he does not acquire it. And the challenge is that since Reish Lakish holds that a person is zoiche b'mitzia, which would be in hefker, ba'arba ames, so enachanami, he threw himself on it. That's not a kinyan, but the fact that that product was in his arba ames, he should acquire it. That was the kasha of the Gemara, similar to another kasha we had from a Mishnah Bava Metzia, and the way we learned the pshat in the words of the Yerushalmi, as says the Marafulda, as that this is like we had in the Babli, even though the words don't appear to be the same, that when a person does something that implies that he does not want to tap into this rabbinic kingdom of Dalad Ames, then it doesn't work for him. The very fact that he threw himself on top of a product, why is he throwing himself on top of it? If he was kind of Arba Ames, he's kind of Arba Ames. He doesn't need to do it. I know you can counter argue, maybe he threw himself on top of it to prevent others from getting it. We don't interpret it that way. And therefore, that's why the Dalad Ames does not work.
Rabbi, maybe he threw himself to be in the 4 amos.
I'm sorry?
Maybe he's throwing himself to be part of the 4 amos.
No, then you don't throw yourself on top. Then you just walk into Dalad Ames. Okay, we're going to have one more challenge against Reish Lakish. It's going to be a very short amid, and the biggest challenge, like there always is with the Yerushalmi, especially today, so many different girsois in our Gemara, and it's going to change everything. It's not shaykh. It's very confusing. We're going to go through one girsa. People that are using the ois v'hadar were following the girsa of ois v'hadar. I can just imagine how much they heard of it to come to it. According to our girsa, it's going to come out that Rabbi Yechanan argues with Reish Lakish. Not always, but in most cases, he does not buy into this whole rabbinic kinyan of Dalad Ames. And by the way, we learned yesterday some sort of source. I say some sort of because it's from Divrei, it's from Kabbalah, it's from Nach, and it's really an asmachta. There's a whole topic we spoke to Saram Bavli, whether we're going to go that it's a kinyan that Abanan, we have an asmachta. We're going to learn our Gemara that Rabbi Yechanan argues with Reish Lakish. Problem will be is that in other areas throughout Mishnayos, it's mashma that there is such a kinyan. So we're going to have many little challenges which will qualify the shita of Rabbi Yechanan. So there will be an argument, but we're gonna break the argument down into more details. We're going to introduce the concept of das acheres makne oisa. Don't forget, guys. Again, our girsa is that Rabbi Yechanan said b'shem Rab Abba Kohen Bardala Adam Zoicha b'mitzia ba'arba amos. Now, there's a big difference between me acquiring something that's lost, which means hefked, versus me acquiring something that you are selling to me, that you are giving to me. Because when you're giving something to me, whether it's as a gift or as a sale, etc., you want to give it, I want to receive it. The fact that you're being makne it to me makes it easier for me to acquire it. Two people are working in the same direction. You're giving, I'm receiving. When I am acquiring something from Hefked, no one is giving it to me. If the qualification, both of Rabbi Yechanan and of Reish Lakish, that will be the sugi until the new Mishnah that will have an Amud Beis. The new Mishnah, which is the 6th Mishnah, of our Pedic, the third Mishnah of our Pedic, of Pedic Hapeya, Pedic Dalid, we're going to learn two major dinim. Din number one we never spoke about this before, is that the Chachamim, based on what we did just learn in the beginning of this chapter, that it isn't only that Choivas Peya Bakama, but it's Dafke Ba'oifen, we say, called the Alam Gavar, use the words open competition. In other words, the Balabas does not have the right who should get it. He has to leave it open. That's good and that's not good. It's good because every Yoni has equal opportunity. It's not good because they might fight over it. Prohibited for the Ani to harvest Peya using a utensil, whether it's a sickle, whether it's an axe, because while they're chopping, they might hurt someone else. So in other words, you can only chop the shirayim with your hands. And number two, this is very important. Since poor people, also new dinner we never spoke about, and the Mishnah doesn't even speak about it explicitly, but since there is a rule, obviously, that poor people are not permitted to enter the field to collect the peya unless the owner is present. Now we're back to the same issue. We don't want for the owner to have koyach who should get it. We want it to be open, and whichever ani gets it, gets it. Called the alam gvad. Problem is that since aniyim cannot enter the field unless the balabas is there, so what will prevent the balabas to tell his chavedim, the aniyim, his friends, at 3:30 a.m., I'm going to open up the back gate, and then they'll be the only aniyim there. That won't work. So therefore, the Mishnah speaks about 3 fixed times that the owner has to be present in the field, which will allow the aniyim to know beforehand these are the times that peya will be available. The Tanakama speaks about 3 times. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Akiva are going to tweak that. Ultimately, there's going to be 3 opinions, and the halacha will be like the Tanakama. That will more or less be today's daf. Without any further ado, on top of the Amid, this is going to be the final challenge to the shita of Rabbi Yechanan, the Shem, Rabbi Abba HaKoyen, that Adam Zoiche b'mitzia, that we're going to insert, as we learned in the Shin Nuschayis, as we had in the Hagos Hagra yesterday, Adam Zoiche b'mitzia ba'arbe amas. Okay. We learned the Brais. Brais was taught by Rabbi Chia. Hoyushnayim miskachin al ha'oimer. The word miskachin sagt the Marafulda miriven v'doichvin. They're fighting and pushing each other. Again, not only does the Balabas not distribute it, but the aniyim amongst themselves don't make an equal distribution. Called the alam gavar. It's open, so naturally people are going to start pushing and fighting. So it's amazing. Imagine, guys, 3 anim: Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is stopping Shimon. Shimon is stopping Reuven. They're fighting each other, each one preventing the other one of getting it. Komt a Levi still hate, and kriegt rein, and he takes it. He came the third. Same Nakuda. The Nakuda is that who acquires it? The one that made the kinyan. How do you make a kinyan? Hagba'ah. Who grabbed it? The Aniyacher, the Levi. So it's Zachaboy. Gan Kasha. If Dalad Amishal Adam, which is the Shita of Rabbi Yeresh Lakish, it should not be the one who grabbed it. It should be the one who came within Daladamas first. Oiti. Again, the same answer. Now, again, the words, Bishalei Amar Yiskuli Arba Amas, just to repeat what we said, yes, there are some who learn that the Yerushalmi argues with the Bavli, and the Yerushalmi is to be understood literally, that when does Reish Lakish say that Daladamas is koinem? Only when the person says, I want for it to work. If he didn't say it, it doesn't work. That will be the literal. But we're not learning the literal. We're learning that the Yerushalmi, like the Bavli, you don't need to make that declaration. But if you do some Galem work, then it doesn't work. So let's teach, right? So how does that work? Let's read inside the Pnei Moshe. 4 lines from the top. Oid hi b'shaloi amru hachi nami, says the Pnei Moshe. Mishum hai tamahut. Same reason we learned at the end of yesterday's shir. Ki even shoymer even yachad. Since they were fighting, v'lo yamru kol hakodim adal damas yiska. Why were they fighting? Guys, you have to let me take a step back. These are not people. We're not talking about people that are dishonest. If they would want to use the king of Daladamas, which obviously would be the smarter option, then they would not be pushing each other. I think that's why the Marafol said, well, why were they pushing each other? 2 people came. Let the one who came first say, I came here first. Now, is it possible that the other one will disagree and he will say, I came first? They'll go to Beis Din for that. The fact that they were pushing with each other, that means they were stopping each one from taking it. That means each one was going on the premise that only a king and Hagma is going to work. I'm back in the Maraf folder. Which is quite amazing. I think it's quite amazing. Okay, in other words, that's the way we interpret their fighting. So now we're good. Now we have, like we mentioned before, it's a big machloikis in girsois, and it's so important that there is for those not that I remember that good. I looked it up yesterday in Bava Metzia and the Sugya. We have a Toisvis, and he has a whole different girs in this Yerushalmi. There's different girsois in the following lines in the Gemara. They are very consequential to knowing who says what, but we're going to follow one way. Amar Rabbi Yasa, Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Now look into this word. Zu, this the dalad amas of the person functions like your private domain, and it affects a kinyan, is only begitin masha'inkein b'matana. Now, when he said the word zu goes to a Mishnah. Now, this is going to get very interesting because actually that dalad amas is koina. Yeah, we have it from the Shlakish, those words that we said. That dalad amas. B'mitzia, but there is a Mishnah that speaks about king and daladamas. Look inside the Marafol, and it's mamish gaval. Mil say that Rabbi Yechanan itmer amas nisan de gitten. What does it say in the Mishnah? That hazoy get leishtoi. It's a famous din. A man wants to divorce his wife. The nasan biyada. Remember, no biyada means biyada, but halachically, if he puts it into her chutzid acts like yada. Really, we know this from the Rambam, whether chutzid is mitzad yad, whether chutzid is mitzad shlichus, by a woman is mitzad yad. Now, people start to know, kol mashikana isha kana baila. How does that b'chlal work? She doesn't own a chutzid. So for that we say, gite v'yada boim ka'achas. And that's not negay right now. Okay, so a man is throwing a get to his wife, hazoy to get liishtoi, and it lands karoiv law. And the meaning of karoiv law is not that if Reuven and his wife are, let's say, 100 amas apart, so it went 51 amas. That's what it sounds like. It's closer to her than to him. That's not what it means. The Gemara clarifies over there in Gittin, karoiv law has to mean it's within her dalad amas. It's a Mishnah. Karev law, migureshes. Karev loi, ain't a migureshes. Mishnah. Right, so it's not Rabbi Yechanan. Karev law, she's divorced. Is that raya that what? That the daladamas around her is like her domain. Her domain acquires for her. And then the Mishnah says, and let's remember these words clear in our minds, v'chein b'kiddushin, how romantic. A man wants to be mekadosh a woman, so he throws the ring to her. If the ring falls between her daladamas, she's mikodeshes. V'chein b'bal choiv, this is all the Mishnah. The creditor says, throw the money to me. And the borrower throws the money. And after it landed on the ground, before the lender actually took the money, the wind blew the money away. That's the question. What we want to know is, did the borrower repay or he didn't repay? So that if it was closer to the loiva, then he didn't pay yet. chayv aloive, if the money was lost. But if the money fell karav lamalva, zocha haloive. Now the Mishnah says, Gitin, Kedushin, Balchoiv. Remember that. That will be very important. But we're going to focus now only on the Gitin. We're going to almost ignore the rest. So on that says Rabbi Yechanan, Zuli Gitin. Who domininon that Karev law migureshes, Karev law means not closer to her than to him, like we just spoke out. V'hainu kish I get b'toich arba amish shalom. Kana law arba amish shalom. Aber not, says Rabbi Yechanan, according to our girsa, v'loy b'matana, b'chlal a gift. That in bas hamatana b'toich arba amish shaloi, loy zachalei arba amish shaloi. Means if Reuven is giving Shimon a gift, and he throws the gift, and the gift lands b'toich daladamas of Shimon, Reuven can retract. The yachal hanoisen lachzer boy.
Rabbi, in case of the ring, if she doesn't want to marry him, and it's in her $4 amos, shouldn't she be picking it up? If she doesn't want to marry him, she's stuck?
No, it doesn't work that way. Just like when a man puts a ring on a woman, Kevan, what you think I can't put a ring on your finger? Rabbi Kunan puts tefillin on you whether you like it or not. I can put something on your finger, but koyach doesn't marry to me. Okay? In other words, the Amar Hu, right, the whole sugya in Kedushin, she's not allowed to say yes. Not the way Lahavdil de Goyim. We're not allowed to do it that way. But her silence in a certain way, Kevan, is called she's moida. Adam can see that. Because when I give you something, I understand what your silence means. You understand? When it comes to Kedushin, even if the ring is very expensive, if a woman would not want, she would say, no, I'm not Mekudeshes to you. I love the ring. If you want to give it as a gift, thank you. But I'm not married to you. She would say that. Okay. The kid said, that's our girsa. Reish Lakish uses the kinyan. Again, the words that we have is b'metzia. Adam, zoiche, b'metzia, right? Ba'ar ba'amas. Rabbi Yechanan says that by amatane, it does not work. Now, again, different ways of learning the next lines in the Gemara. We're going to teach ruba. Ruba means a chiddush. That there's a chiddush in Rabbi Yechanan, Dafka saying that by matane it doesn't work. Rabbi Yechanan didn't say b'mitzia it doesn't work. Rabbi Yechanan says b'matane it doesn't work. And there is a ruba, there is a chiddush. It's great that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, which is Reish Lakish, says that by mitzia it works. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish didn't say b'matane it works. You know why? Because, let me say it by heart, because the fact that Rabbi Yechanan says b'matana it does not work. Avade, it's not going to work b'mitzia. The fact that Rabbi Shlokish says it's koina, even by a mitzia, for sure by matana. Each one said something which you can already automatically know what he'll hold. Mitzia, matana, one benegad the other. So they dafka picked the example that they gave as the Gemara explains. Again, there's different gersais. I know that. We're going to go like this. That the Ruba de Reish Lakish, the reason why Reish Lakish, B'Shem Rab Abba HaKoyen, said B'Metzia Daladamas works. That for us to know, including in the bigger Chiddush, we know the smaller Chiddush. Metzia is the bigger Chiddush. What's the bigger Chiddush? That in Metzia, She'ein Zoicha Ba Midas Acher. Like we said the words, Das Acheres Makna Oisa. No one is pushing it, not pushing it physically, pushing it to be kavana. No one is pushing it into the hands of the Zoicha b'Metzia. It's a Metzia. He was lucky. He found it. Nevertheless, says Reish Lakish, Zoicha b'Arba Ames. So what will Reish Lakish hold by Matana? For sure. Where Reuven is gifting something to Shimon, Reuven wants for Shimon to acquire it. For sure. Matana shu Zoicha b'Midas Acheres, like Kolchchein, that the Reish Lakish will hold that Dalad Amas works. And the same thing in the other direction. Again, according to the Girsa that we're learning. That Ruba de Rabbi Yechanan, the reason, the Chiddush, the Gavaldikai, the greatness of Rabbi Yechanan, when he said, not by Matana, for us to know that Ma in Matana. Guys, we're gonna go again. I know there's all of these different versions. That what? Shu Zoicha Bami Das Acher. Even by Das Acher. Das Acher is Makna Oisa. Nevertheless, that's what Rabbi Yechanan says. It doesn't work over there. It comes to Ametzia, like Kolchchein. All right. Very good. So we have it clear. So each one argues with the other in both cases. Reish Lakish holds that Daladamas works not only for Metzia, for sure Matana, and Rabbi Yechanan, who says it doesn't work by Matana, for sure holds it doesn't work by Metzia. Now, says the Gemara, guys, don't forget, it was Rabbi Yasa b'shem Rabbi Yechanan. So Rabbi Yasa is the next generation of Amoraim, as was Rabbi Ze'edu. So this is not a conversation between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yechanan. Now we're having a conversation, right, in the one step further. That Rabbi Ze'edu asked Rabbi Yasa, how can you say that Rabbi Yechanan does not allow it to work, right? And the words of Rabbi Yechanan was, that's only by Gittin, right? Zu begitten. What do you mean Zu legitten? What about the Mishnah? Go back, we read the Mishnah in the Marafulda. V'chein le'igin ha'kiddushin. Doesn't only work for Gittin. So the Gemara says, nah. Rabbi Yasa says, we have this hekish, right? The Yatzav Ahoysa. He Gittin, he Kiddushin. When he says Gittin, it means Kiddushin. If you forgot the next line in the Mishnah, right? The Mishnah says, V'chein b'bal chayv. V'hatanina and v'chein le'inyan ha'chayv. Now we got a problem over here. Okay? Look inside the Marafuld at the end of the Amid. 3 lines for the end of the Amid. Because Gittin and Kiddushin, the makshinon lala hadadi midichsiv yatzav haisa. So it does work by a money. But why would it work? If Rabbi Yechanan holds that it does, if matana not, why by balchayv? Doesn't make sense. When the Mishnah says that should mean by monetary. Now, I
would
can
it
argue,
be like because of the star?
What star? What star?
The star Gittin and star Kiddushin, so the star Chov. So he holds also.
No, but here's the money back. Here he's giving the money to counter the star. It's going the opposite than the star. So Amalei, so Rabbi Yasef verenfert Rabbi Yechanan. And he gives a big rule. Now we have to already, we have to add a few words. Now what? Shekain im Amarlei. If a lender tells the borrower, you owe me the money, Zarkeo layam, if you throw it into the ocean, v'yehei macholach, I'll forgive you. In other words, there's repayment and there's mechila, 2 completely different things. Rabbi Yasa is going to insist that Rabbi Yechanan is right, that only Gittin. Gittin is unique. You don't need a kinyan for Gittin. You don't need a kinyan for Kiddushin, interestingly. It has to be within their daladamas. Has to be in their domain. He says, I can be moichel a debt. I can make my mechila on a debt be contingent on any mishugas. You throw the money into the ocean, I forgive you. The fact that, like we said, the creditor told the borrower, throw the money to me. Throw the money to me doesn't mean throw it to me 50 amas away. It means throw it within my domain. And then what? Not that you repaid. There's mechila over here. That's gaval. Now we have to therefore add something. Because when the words of the Mishnah is v'chein b'bal chayv, that karev l'loiva chayv ha'loiva, these are the words in the Mishnah. We had this in the Marafulda. Karev l'malva, zocha ha'loiva. We have to add that it must be that the lender told the borrower, he had to tell him, not only did he say, throw it to me, he says, throw it to me and you'll be free from liability. Throw it to me and there'll be nothing. He has to say those words. Because the debt is not nullified because it was repaid. No, the debt was nullified because the upon which a machila is contingent. Problem is, daf lamed vav amid beis, if that's the pshat over there in the Mishnah, ma'ato afilu karav lo'loiva zocha ha'loiva. In other words, throw it to me. Then why does it have to enter the daladamas of the malva? He threw it. And but we learned to the Mishnah, we quoted these words right now, that karav lo'loiva ha'loiva chayiv. Gavaldik question. So you have to add more words, okay? Which means, must be, shkenim amaloi, Zarkeo achi konis l'shusi. It wasn't just throw it to me. Throw it to me that it should enter my domain. And if it didn't enter his daladamas, then it didn't enter his domain. but it's when it entered the domain, you did not repay your debt. This is so important. The lender was moichel the debt. Now, before we go on, I want to say like this: that what do we see over here? Even according to Rabbi Yochanan, that aside by Gitin Kiddushin, Dalad Amas does not acquire, but Lakula Alma, Dalad Amas is your Reshus. Two different things. Now, your Chatzer Mamish, no one debates that Chatzer shall Adam Koinaloi. Right? With all the details, Chatzer Mishtameres, Tat Mishtameres, no one debates that. Even Rabbi Yochanan holds the word Reshus, he's big among this. Dalad Amas is your Reshus. Al pi Kabbalah, we know. When it says over there that when Esav walked into the room and Yitzchak Avinu, he sensed the Avira of Gehenna, that the Avira of the Ruchniisdik flow from the person goes into one's Daladamas. We Hasidim say, I want to be in the Daladamas of the Rebbe. Yeah, I want to be in Gan Eden. I want to be in the Daladamas. But that doesn't mean it's acquiring. It's two different things. Everyone knows that there's something that I take up. Begashmi is one amma, right? Amma barum gimel amos is a mikveh, but beruchni is you take up more space. Ubafrat, we know that al pi Kabbalah that the nefesh, the ruach and the neshama, they go into the person. They're mamali haguf. The chay and the yechida, they are, so to say, beyond the body, so they are around you. That we know. So we have reshus and we have kinyan. And Rabbi Yochanan limits kinyan only to Gittin and Kiddushin, period. Now, all of this in our version was Rab Ze'era and Rabbi Yasa, based on Rabbi Yochanan's rejection of Shittas Reish Lakish. So Rab Ze'era was challenging him. However, Amar Rababo, you should know that Kol Ilain Tituvasa Moisef Kumar Rabbi Yasa. He might have not known it. All of them, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Moisef Kumar Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish himself challenged Rabbi Yochanan. Mikavel minei, against. Interesting, not Kabbalah to accept it, but as against him. And all of the answers that Rabbi Yasa came up with, they were answers that Rabbi Yochanan came up with. Pasalei bi'ilin pisrayu, the same teretz. Who I think the story was with the Beis Yosef. I think that he got stuck somewhere, and even though he had a Magid, the Magid was not coming to him. Magid means that there was a Malach that would come to the Beis Yosef. He would be Megala to him whatever he was stuck with. And he mamish heard of it, and he fasted, and he tried. B'yigi atzuma, he came to the teretz. And he was so besimcha that he understood something that he couldn't understand prior. From the joy, he went out for Ashpatzir, and he goes by a psashuster, a shoemaker, and he hears a shoemaker learning that Mishnah, that Gemara, and he heard him get stuck with the same kasha, and he gave up a patracht. He thought into it for a moment, and he right away came to the same answer. So Rabbi Yosef thought to himself, "Oy gewalt," he thought that this idea was far away from this world. You worked hard to bring it into the world. Once it came into the world, anyone can chop it much easier. Many times we have good ideas, but we have to give credit that even though we didn't hear it consciously from Rashi, from Atoisvis, they did the hard work. Now it's available. That's really what happened over here. And Bachlal, just to remember that I think it's in Daf Pei Daled. I don't know where Yakadani yet. It's on Pei Daled, Bav Metzia, that the whole sugi in the Gemara in Bavli, not only how Reish Lakish became a Baal Tshuva, the whole story is phenomenal, but ultimately how they both passed away. And after, right, there was a Kpeda. Rabbi Yochanan had a Cholosh Dati to Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish passed away, and how Rabbi Yochanan's wife, who was Reish Lakish's, Rabbi Yochanan's sister, Reish Lakish's wife, was gebeten with Rabbi Yochanan to be Moichel the Kpeda, and he didn't. And after he passed away, the anguish that Rabbi Yochanan had when he was learning, he was walking around crying, "Where is my brother-in-law?" And I think it was Rab Ze'era or Rab Pedas. I have to remember. They don't look it up. One of the other Amaynoim tried to. Rabbi Lozav ben Pedas. Rabbi Lozav ben Pedas. Very good. Lozav ben Pedas was trying to, every time Rabbi Yochanan taught something, he said, "Tayin the Messiah law." Yeah, you looks good. And Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't need a Tanya de Messiah law. Everything that I said, Reish Lakish had 24 kashas on me. That's this. That's what I need. And what was the end? That Rabbi Yochanan lost his mind from sadness. He already lost 10 sons. Rabbi Yochanan buried 10 sons. He lost his mind when he lost his chavrusa. And the end was the Chachamim davened for him to pass away. I was curious to know where is he buried. I was asking that because we began learning Yerushalmi by the Rambam. When Rabbi Yochanan was in Tveria, I would love to make a siyum there. Doesn't matter how many years. I just don't. I don't know if it's known where Rabbi Yochanan is. But anyways, that's that. So it's beautiful. So you think in other words, Rabbi Yasa, you said good, but you already had access because Rabbi Yochanan gave this. And now on the other hand, you see it's emes. When two people come with the same answer, that's a proof that it's emes. Okay, Atkan the sugya of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. And again, I want you to know that there's different gersois, almost menakotz alakotz, as to who holds what sheet. And that's life. We don't know. We don't have. So whoever puts us together, again, these are big Talmidei Chachamim, and this is a lot of yigia. And they chose this derech, and we're learning this way. And if it's different, then Hashem should forgive us. Okay, Halacha Gimel, the third mission of this chapter. There are two big dinim, and then another statement, another story, almost. The din number one is based on what we're learning. Open competition, called the Alam Gavad. We had today in the Daf Lamed Vav in the beginning, the Braisa of Rav Chia, we had what? That they were miskatchin. People fight, and that's life. If people are fighting over the peya, so the Chachamim made a takana that peya ain't koitzin oisim b'magolos. You can't use a magol. Magol is the normal keli, the instrument, the sickle, right? That you harvest food. Don't do that, because if two people are fighting and each one has a sickle, they can hurt each other. We also had about plucking, about uprooting. No, it's any instrument that is sharp, that one person inadvertently can hurt their neighbor, even though it facilitates the harvesting, you're not allowed to use it. Danger of injury. Big rule number two. Now the Mishnah doesn't say the premise of rule number two, but let's extrapolate. I got it right then. Thank you. And that is that even though aniyim are welcomed to chap, I like the chapping sharayim, chapping peyam, they are only allowed to enter the field if the owner is present. And it makes sense. If not, hefker welt, what you have a field, anyone can enter whenever they want. Now the problem is, here's the problem, that if they can only enter when the owner is present, the owner has too much power if he were to have the sole right to determine when he'll open his field. So it's not going to be fair. He's going to pick his chavedim, the aniyim, and he's going to tell them a certain time that's not convenient for other people, middle of the night, and they're going to have access to it. So therefore, says the Mishnah, shalosh uv oyois. This is a hard word. The Gemara is going to interpret the word uv ya means to reveal. Reveal means where the owner has to show up. The owner has to show up. Really, it means time periods. There are 3 time periods during the day that the owner has to show up, and everyone knows that beforehand. And when are those times? B'shachar, b'chatzois, u'b'mincha. We'll see mincha means mincha ketana. Mincha ketana is 3:30. B'shachar, what the morning means, that I know, it depends. Depends on what mishpacha you come from. For some people, it means 6 in the morning. From some people, b'shachar means 11 in the morning. B'shachar. Okay, shachar, chatzois, and mincha ketana. Now, guys, we will see that both Rabban Gamliel, that's our Girsa, and Rabbi Akiva, they argue with the Tanakam. Rab Gamliel Oimer, that these 3 are not 3. Lo yomru ela kedei shelo yivchasu. 3 is the minimum. Rab Gamliel holds, 3 minimum. But the owner is still allowed to open it also in other times. And the chiddush will be, that what did we say the fear? The fear is that this guy will tell us, Chavedim, I'm opening it at 2 in the morning. They were not afraid. They still, the fact that he also has to open it, b'shachat, b'chatzois, u'b'mincha, it's enough that it's considered opened enough for the aniyim. Rabbi Akiva says the opposite. Rabbi Gamliel says minimum 3. Minimum 3. Rabbi Akiva says maximum 3. In other words, Rabbi Gamliel, he can open it up 5 times a day. 3 fixed times, other times he can, huh? Yeah. He can determine whenever he wants. Rabbi Akiva holds 3 is max, but he can open it up less.
So what do you do if you have pay left after the 3? What does it mean max?
So then the next day you open it up again until it's gone. Now, okay, we're gonna come back to this today. The next statement, God willing, tomorrow, says the Mishnah that shall base nemer. Just quickly, at least to learn one Geshmaka Machloikis. The Pnei Moshe, 2 lines under the Gemara, says base. His girsa was base Nimra. Base Nimra, according to the Pnei Moshe Shem Makoim, we're base Nimra, and base Nimra is Me'ever La Yarden. Guys, we already learned. I know I corrected the mistake. Even though Midrabanan Peya is Noyeg everywhere, Midoiraisa it's only Noyeg Ba'aretz. So the fact that the Pnei Moshe teaches base Nimra Shem Makoim, and we know from Bamidbar that it's a place in Ever La Yarden, comes along the Rashidilio, and he says, yeah, Take, it's in the right column and middle, 11 lines from the top. That shall base Nemer Kosef Harosh Zal Shem Makoim. That's where the Pnei Moshe got it. Kidachsiv Eis base Nimra. But the problem is, says that Rashidilio ve'einokein. Why? Because Tahu Me'eret Sicham Oigel. It's in the Golan Heights, which is Me'ever La Yarden. And V'loy Niskadish B'Kedusha Sa'aretz. Number 1. Number 2, I'm reading in the Rashidilio, Tahavale Lemisnei B'nei Beis Nemer. If B'nei Nemer is Hashem Makoim, then the people that live in the Makim, the Lashon HaMishnah is B'nei, like Anshe Beis Nemer, as we have in Esachtas Chala, Anshe had Tzivuah. Elo, no, that Shem Mishpacha Beretz Yisraelu, Beis Aftinas, Beis Garmu, Esachtas Yuma, Esachtas Shkolim. Interestingly, what comes first, guys, Yuma or Shkolim? By us, we learn Shkolim first. Obviously, the Rashidil, had a different Seder. If this is the right gear, so all these things. Okay, right. Bekitzer, whether it is an Hashem Makom, whether it's Hashem Mishpacha. So they had a unique minig that shall base Nemer, Hoyo Malkitin Alachevel. They used to reap their field using ropes, and the Noisnan Peya Mikol Uman V'Uman, and they would give Peya from every single row. So let me just show what it means like this. Imagine you have a field. The Gemara tomorrow is going to say that perhaps something that they did was not okay. We're going to leave that for tomorrow. We're going to go today to focus on what they did amazing. When do you leave Peah? By the end of the harvest. We learned in the first chapter of 3 Machlokas Tanoim, if you left in the middle, if you left in the beginning, you should leave Peah at the end. Now, what happens if I want to give to the ani Peah immediately? Let's say I'm only beginning to harvest right now. Let's say it's going to take me 3 days to harvest the field, and the aniyim are hungry. I want for them to take it. So when you have fields, when you plant them like an Ashkenazi, meaning you're organized, there's columns. So they took a rope. That means if this is a column, they would have 2 chachamim, one stand over here, one stand over here. So there would be a rope isolating this column. That rope, Danny, would give this column a din of a sada for itself. So when they came to the end of this column, they left Peah. Then they went to the next column. They put a rope. The rope isolated the column from everything else. So when they came to the end of that column, again, they left Peah. They used the rope to allow them to leave Peah at the end of every column, even though it will take, like in my example, 3 days. The aniyim are not getting more Peah. They're getting, at the end of the day, the same amount of Peah. We're going to learn tomorrow that these people, actually, there was something not positive, that they didn't leave the 60th. They left less. We're not going to focus on that right now. The point is that they used a rope to isolate each column, which allowed them to give Peah mikol uman v'uman. Every row is like a sada b'fnei atzmai. And again, and the advantages is that the aniyim were able to collect Peah earlier. They didn't have to wait for the balabas to harvest the whole field. Beautiful. Okay. So first of all, the Mishnah began, the first law was that 3, right? Shalosh uviyos. I'm sorry, that was the second law of the Mishnah. First law of the Mishnah is clear. Sakana, you can't use kelim. Ava oyois, you have to know how to pronounce it. Amar Rabbi Bun, I found such a word in Avadia. Kamada Tamar, Esav. How Esav in Mashiach's times will be ransacked. Nivu, that's the key. Nivu matspunov. Everything that he hid became revealed. So it's Miloshan revealing. And like we said in the Mishnah, the owner has to reveal himself. The owner has to show up, meaning that's the implied that Aniyim cannot enter if the owner is not there. The owner showing up, B'shachar, Chatzos, and Mincha, is 3 time slots in the day where the owner has to show up. B'shachar, Chatzos, and Mincha. Why these 3? And now you'll see that human nature never changes. B'shachar, Mipnei HaManikois. Look inside the Mara folder. What's Manikois? That Shahatinoik, for those who have infants, as we know, when you want to sleep, they're not sleeping. Right? They wake up. But epis fartogs, mamish yasham baboiker. When it's in the morning, when you have to wake up anyway, that's when they're sleeping. So it's the most convenient time. Aniyim who have pitzkalach kinder. When is the most convenient time? They didn't have babysitters. So when can they go run out and come back? They want to do it when the baby is sleeping. So the best time for parents of kids that are nursing is bashachar. Ubachatzois, because of tinoikos. What's tinoikos? Children, they sleep in the morning, right? At night, they don't want to go to sleep. In the morning, when you wake them up, it's amazing. They fashlaf. Right? Yeshiva Bachram, Rabbi Smith, when did the Bachram come to learn? They don't come 7 in the morning. So in other words, if you have children that you have to feed, you want to get fresh product, pick it up for them noon. In the morning, they're sleeping. In the afternoon, they're sleeping. When are they up? B'chatzois. And then, why? B'mincha mipnei hanu moishois. The moishois means the elderly, the people that walk with canes. In other words, they wake up early. Elderly people, they barely sleep, aside of all of the times they wake up to go to the bathroom. But to go from their house to the field will take them 7 hours until you get there. And al tashlechenu le'ezikno. But gavaldik. So therefore, for every group, there was a time that it was open. Now, the Tanakam, the pshat in the Tanakam is you have to open at 3, not more, not less. However, that's the chiddush, and we're going to go with Rabbi Gamliel, not Rabbi Gamliel. He argues with the Tanakam, not dafka 3, minimum 3. But you can add, meaning the Gemara explains, let's read inside the Habir Hagrok Saviyat Beis. By me, it's all the way in the right and the bottom. That's a big chiddush, like we mentioned. Haitana Savar, Haitana goes to Rabbi Gamliel, that even the Ein Onois and Peah El Basoif, right? Like the ideal you leave pay at the end, or he holds you have to leave it at the end. Loi Chayshin and Shema Yira Echad Moidato. Moidato means it's Chavedim. Dohaniyim Mishamdim Lebasoif. In other words, you can add. The kasha is, Danny, how can you add? He can end up giving it to all his Chavedim. That was the fear, right? He'll open it 2 a.m. So the answer is, since you only leave pay at the end, and everyone, all of the Niyam, they're going around, they're watching the fields. Everyone knows this field now is pay up. The wait, you can't completely trick them. Okay, you can figure out the rest. And now Rabbi Akiva Omer that lo yomru el kadosh lo yasifu, which means that 3 is max. Max means you cannot do more than 3, but you can do less. You can do less. Then poiches. And again, what's the chiddush? Again, let's look inside the Ksaviyat base of the Bir Agra that imratza lifchais v'hai tana savar doloi chashin and shem yimnu echad negimal kitas anim elilkoit. Same thing. In other words, based on the fact that you leave pay at the end, why would you hold you can't do it at the end, or you can't do less? Why would you say you can't do less? Why would Gamliel hold can't do less? Because we just said that, let's say the Tanoikas, they had to go there noon. There'll be nothing left. If you only open it once. We're not chayish for that, because everyone knows you leave pay at the end. They know the field is filled with payo. So that day, the yeshiva bachar has to wake up early, nabach in the morning, if he wants to have breakfast, because that's it. In other words, they don't have to accommodate that much. Only the Tanakama holds, we dafka leave it on the 3. And by the way, the Rambam Paskins, Keshitas, Tanakama will